What is your message to those people who've kind of said, look, we might turn a blind eye to this thing?
None of those individuals or groups focused on the actual injuries or deaths of the public.
Ban on publicly carrying guns in our state's largest city and its surrounding county. Governor declaring gun violence a public health emergency.
Organized crime, the cartel, hide in plain sight because how do you know? I need this to be worked out in a very aggressive manner.
They took an oath of office. As law enforcement, that's their job, and I expect them to do that job.
Defiance in Illinois. The biggest acts of civil disobedience that have been seen across this country in a long time over the past couple of years is multiple states introducing some new type of so-called attack weapons ban, and with those bans, a lot of time there's either grandfathering or there's registration that's involved. There's one state out there right now that's saying we're not having it, and the number of people who are actually registering is so small, it's less than 0.1%. You're not going to believe what state is actually standing up to their government. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here. Even if you don't live there, you're probably aware of who J.B. Pritzker is, the so-called Protect Illinois Communities Act, which essentially and unconstitutionally banned most semi-auto long arms in the state of Illinois, while at the same time forcing people to register what they already have. So if you own something that's now banned, the state wants to know who you are. They want all of your information. They want to know what you have, they want to dig into your personal life, and they want you to turn over all of that information. Now, how many people do you think actually followed through with that? The state said they want you to start or begin registration on October 1st, 2023. So now, it's been like, what, almost 3 weeks? How many people have actually registered?
If it's legal in this state, you shouldn't be able to prosecute in another state.
A lot of the county boards have really come out pretty strong against the gun law you just signed.
For something that is legal here, for doing something that is legal here, that shouldn't be allowed, right? They took an oath of office. As law enforcement, that's their job, and I expect them to do that job. You know, if you don't like it, go petition for a change in the legislation. As it is, you don't get to decide I'm going to drive 150 miles an hour on the highway and there should be no consequences. Reality is that the laws that are on the books, you don't get to choose which ones people are going to follow. Same thing is true about carrying out the assault weapons ban. And the right thing, it was a consensus. There even was a Republican vote for it. Remember, nobody's guns are getting taken away from them.
According to Illinois, there's something like 2,415,481 people who have FID cards, which is the Arm Owner Identification Card. Now with that card, they're assuming that a majority of those people have what is now banned. So far, there's only been 246 people that have actually registered. Now 246 people is kind of like a lot. It's more than what we'd like to see, but as a percentage, that's only 0.8% of people who have registered in the past 3 weeks. That's 0.08 of just 1% of people who have registered in the now 3-week period that the registration has been opened, which is absolutely phenomenal. Each one of those people who have done the registration may have had multiple things to register, and that's why the amount that's been registered is higher than the number of people who have actually registered something. So again, 0.08%. It's absolutely unbelievable, and it just makes us happy to see that people in Illinois are saying, no, we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to give over our private information. It's not your business to know what we own and what we have as our private property, and we're not going to tell you.
All because our state and our nation has been held hostage by the NRA and their allies, resigning themselves to the idea that gun violence is a sacrifice that Americans must accept. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, victory has been elusive. That's why today I couldn't be prouder to say that we got it done. I'm signing this legislation tonight so that it can take immediate effect. Illinois now officially prohibits the sale and distribution of these mass-killing machines, and we can end the sale of these weapons of war as soon as possible.
We think it's absolutely phenomenal that somebody's finally standing up to their state and saying, look, this law is unconstitutional. We know it, and so we're not going to go along with it. So unfortunately, as a side note, there are some people out there that are just stuck in legal limbo anyway and couldn't register even if they wanted to. That's because when the law took effect, it said you could keep what you had before this law was created, but you're going to have to register it. Well, in the middle of that period was from when the law was created to the time that you had to start registering. There was an injunction, there was a lawsuit, then there was an injunction. And during that injunction time period, when this law couldn't be enforced, people went out, and a lot of people went out, and they got what is now banned. Then there was a stay placed on that injunction, which means the law went back into effect. These people still own those things, right? But the law says that if you owned it prior to when the law was created, then you have to register it. So what's going on with the stuff that people got in the meantime? Those people are kind of left out because it's almost like a trap. If they were to register it, they have to put it down when they got it, and if they got it after the law was created, then that's a violation in its own right. So they would essentially be self-incriminating or incriminating themselves if they filled out that paperwork and went through the registration process. Again, they're kind of stuck in legal limbo where they don't even know what to do. But anybody who had something prior to that is basically telling the state to kick rocks and shove it, which is phenomenal. We were interested to see what was happening in Illinois since the registration period began, and to be honest, we weren't expecting it to be 0.8%. This just goes to show that Illinoisans are doing things correctly. Even if people keep registering at a slow trickle, it might increase to 1%, but we haven't even reached 0.1% yet, so we would still need to get all the way up to 1%, and 1% would still be low. National Arm Ban. In reaction to the growing number of arm-related crimes in Bernalillo County and Albuquerque, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has proclaimed a state of emergency and suspended certain Second Amendment rights. This historic action has spurred discussion on the limits of constitutional rights. Proponents contend that it is vital to safeguard the public from the rising threat of armed violence, while opponents claim it violates citizens' Second Amendment rights. According to Grisham's viewpoint, the rights of victims and their families should take precedence over the rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Renowned proponents of more stringent arm control laws, including Ryan Bussey, Ted Liu, and David Hogg, have voiced disapproval of Grisham's choice. Prominent members of the legal and law enforcement sectors publicly opposed the governor's decision. Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller and District Attorney Sam Bregman both state that they will not be enforcing the order because it's unlawful. Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina reiterates this position, saying his unit will not enforce the directive. John Allen, the county sheriff, takes a more circumspect stance, voicing worries about his deputies' possible legal risks. Governor Grisham's signing of the 2021 New Mexico Civil Rights Act into law has resulted in a radical change to the legal framework that governs the acts of government agents by doing away with qualified immunity.
Everyone is terrified of the backlash for all of these political reactions. And I'm the only person, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, frankly, have the courage to take the stand to make everyone in our community safer. That they are also, by the way, constitutionally sworn to serve. It's time to focus on the children and families of New Mexico.
Sheriff Allen has two concerns. Firstly, he worries about putting his deputies in situations where there may be a conflict over civil liability. Secondly, he's concerned about the possible consequences of preventing law-abiding residents from using their constitutional right to self-defense. Leading the charge in these attempts are advocacy organizations like the National Association for Armed Rights, or NAGR, which filed a lawsuit in an attempt to obtain a variety of legal remedies. The verdict in this legal dispute will have an effect on the ban's immediate targets, as well as add to the current discussion in the U.S. about how best to strike a balance between individual liberties and national security. The discussion over the right to carry an arm in public spaces has flared up in response to the official national arm ban controversy in New Mexico. The seriousness of the matter has been brought to light by the active involvement of advocacy groups such as NAGR in the court case.
Gun deaths are the leading cause of death for children 1 to 19 in New Mexico. So effective immediately, no person shall possess a firearm, either openly or concealed. From 2017 to 2021, 143 children were killed by guns. No constitutional right in my view, including my oath, I can invoke additional powers.
The people in New Mexico, especially those in the Albuquerque region, to peacefully enjoy their First Amendment rights, but even this right could be temporarily suspended if the governor thinks it necessary. Sheriff John Allen is begging with Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham not to implement her emergency order, which temporarily suspends the privilege to carry an arm in public settings. Sheriff Allen thinks the order is unlawful and won't stop armed violence in the community.
He's not a fact finder. Again, I think all too often some of the leaders in law enforcement, none of these rights are absolute. We go to a judge, a fact finder. I respect Sheriff Allen. He's done what I need him to do, which is to get more incredible police officers and sheriffs on the streets. Worry about the backlash from the NRA and others, and use enforcement as an effective, they believe, way. And not having guns on the streets is an evidence-based way. Organized crime, the cartel, hide in plain sight because how do you know? I need this to be worked out in a very aggressive manner. If people had handguns in their belts, on parks, near schools, on public trails, at the grocery store, and it must stop, and I will keep doing everything.
This has sparked a wider discussion regarding the role of law enforcement in carrying out executive directives that can be thought to go beyond what is allowed by the Constitution. When Democratic Governor Grisham made the announcement of the order, she noted that she expected legal challenges. The well-known Democratic Party leader nominated by Governor Grisham, Bernalillo County District Attorney Sam Bregman, has sided with Sheriff Allen in refusing to carry out the directive. Both Police Chief Harold Medina and Mayor Tim Keller of Albuquerque have declared they're non-compliant. Within 24 hours, an armed rights group filed a federal lawsuit to get an emergency court injunction that would stop the governor's decree from being implemented. The fact that Republican state lawmakers are thinking of starting the impeachment process against Governor Grisham underscores the sharp differences and gravity of the emergency order controversy. Well guys, that about does it for this video. See you next time, and bye for now.